I am honored to introduce this segment of the Innocence Network Wrongful Conviction Day live stream event to give voice to women who have been harmed by a wrongful conviction. My name is Ziva Conviser, and I'm an adjunct assistant professor of criminal justice at Wayne State University, an Institute for Social Innovation Fellow at Fielding Graduate University, a member of the Innocence Network Research Review Committee, and a board member of Proving Innocence, a Michigan organization whose mission is to free and support innocent men and women and assist exonerees to successfully return to society. My research focuses on the human impact of traumatic events, including terrorism and genocide, as well as wrongful conviction, and the possibility of positive change after trauma, how we can move forward alongside the fear and the horror of our trauma, find meaning and purpose in the struggle, recognize what's important to us, and most importantly, hope. My passion is to support the survivors of these traumas and to learn from them about their experiences and their unique qualities and needs. Communitas, or a deeply felt sense of belonging and community, has been an ongoing theme within many of my interactions with women who have been wrongfully convicted, incarcerated, then freed or exonerated. I have witnessed the role that the innocence movement has played in their lives by creating safe spaces that allow for personal growth and transformation, and the emergence of shared feelings of communitas through these temporary but meaningful experiences. In early 2010, 5 female exonerees found themselves in a sea of male exonerees at the annual conference of the Innocence Network. As the women discussed their experiences, they were struck both by the common elements of their cases and by the stark differences between their wrongful convictions and those of their male counterparts. In particular, they shared a need to build relationships, to speak out, and to have women who have had similar experiences hear and validate their feelings. Such discussions led to a vision for the first Women in Innocence Conference, which was held in November 2010. This was followed in 2014 by the Center on Wrongful Convictions Women's Project Conference. These conferences created spaces in which women exonerees could be heard and could share the physical, emotional, social, and material challenges that they face after exoneration. The creative and resourceful strategies that help them cope with both the reality of life after exoneration and the consequences of wrongful conviction, and the help that they still need to rebuild their lives and to productively re-engage with life. Since then, the annual Innocence Network conferences have enabled women to engage with and work through their unique issues in an environment of communitas that includes other exonerated women. Events such as a women's welcome gathering and a women's panel provide spaces for the women to give voice to their experiences, to build shared bonds with other women whom they often call sisters or new family, and to find comfort, safety, and healing in a community of supportive others who understand their pain, shame, and guilt, all without having to explain where you've been or what you have been through, as expressed by many of the women. The women agree that their biggest need is more time with each other. Nevertheless, they also recognize a need for broader public awareness of their unique qualities, issues, and challenges. As one of the women stated, we need to change the public perception of us. We don't really have a face yet. It's the Innocence conferences that allow us to do this. Today, we will hear from 8 women who could have been standing in line with you at the supermarket, who could be your sister, friend, neighbor, or nurse, and who suddenly was arrested and wrongfully convicted of a crime she did not commit. Each of these women has subsequently been found to be innocent and freed or exonerated of those crimes, often cases where they may not even have been a crime at all, and often cases in which these wrongly accused women have had to deal with deep personal loss following the tragic deaths of loved ones along with criminal charges. Each of the women will address the importance of community, what it means to her, how it has played a role in her journey of healing, and the support she still needs from both within and outside the innocence movement to continue to grow and heal. Please listen to their voices, hear their prayers, and be moved to action. Our first speaker is Julie Ray, a survivor of wrongful conviction who has struggled physically and emotionally with the trauma of her experience since her exoneration in 2006. She and Gloria Killian were the inspirations and movers behind the first Women in Innocence Conference in 2010. Julie shares her message that it is possible to create beauty out of the chaos, but we do need help from each other and from each one of you.
Hi, my name is Julie Ray, and I'm an exoneree. I was wrongly convicted following the death of my son, who had been killed by a serial killer, of having murdered him. Obviously, I did not do that. Rather, I was a victim in a situation also. The man assaulted me, but got away and left me alive. 3 years later, I was indicted and convicted and sentenced to 65 years in prison. I was later exonerated and found out that it's really hard, even with a certificate of innocence that was uncontested by the state, to go on after that kind of a conviction is in your past because it's on the internet. And my case was on 2020 several times, even like 20 years later, they did a whole show on it. And it is just a very harsh kind of stigma. I have struggled with a number of things and had been a doctoral student with, actually a doctoral candidate. Before everything happened, I was working on my dissertation and was unable to complete that. And though I have 2 masters, I've not been able to get back into a professional situation since my exoneration in 2006. So I have no retirement or anything like that. And sometimes I struggle with how to negotiate the challenges that one faces as an exoneree. And one day, a friend sent me something, and it says, some people could be given an entire field of roses and only see the thorns in it. Others could be given a single weed and only see the wildflower in it. Perception is a key component to gratitude, and gratitude is a key component to joy. And she said that she sent that to me because that's how she viewed me, as somebody who is able to see the wildflower in the weed. And I had been feeling really bad about myself and not seeing anything positive in myself at all that day. And it was just amazing that she had sent that, because God brought to my mind the memory of when I was in confinement in a solitary cell there in prison and only let out for a few minutes each day, how I had spent that time looking at a single stem of red clover and was captivated by how much that little one stem of clover looked like a whole bouquet of calla lilies when you looked at it really, really close up. And God just reminded me that something I learned in prison was how important gratitude was, and how that is the key component to joy, and how I use that every day now. And even though I've lost everything that I own more than once, I have a kind of quiet joy that helps me and keeps me and gives me the strength I need to continue to face every day. And I think that in our current culture and society, that's something we need very much. And it's a gift of grace that I cherish. And I think most exonerees probably have and cherish, and it helps them.
My name is Ginny LeFever, and I've been harmed by a wrongful conviction. I have been home almost 12 years now, having survived 22 years as a hostage of the great state of Ohio. And we are talking about community, and I've been fortunate to be part of a women's writing group. And we write from prompts. Phoebe Zirkle, who wrote about the tragic suicide of Daryl Hunt. And if that isn't a testimony to the need for exonerees to have a support system, I don't know what is. But anyway, with homage to Patricia Smith, who published a poem, a lengthy poem, What It's Like to Be a Black Girl. For those of you who aren't, I wrote about what it's like to be an exoneree for those of you who aren't. Being an exoneree means you never quite catch up and you never quite fit in. I've been home a little over 11 years now, and I have tech toys. Preschoolers operate with ease that still baffle me. Whole chunks of history happened while I was buried alive, and today's reporting and conversations assume I know about them, but I don't. And despite my best efforts, there's just no catching up. My best friend from when we were 7, his only son committed suicide while I was incarcerated. She called the prison, got routed to the chaplain, half a dozen tries, and could only leave a message for me to call her collect. I offered what meager love and support I was able to, between reminders from the operator that this call originates from an Ohio correctional institution and may be recorded or monitored. Explaining a long employment gap is a challenge. My story was I was widowed young and left with a house full of young children to raise, which is the truth, except thanks to my wrongful conviction, strangers did that for me. I am left with angry adults who have had a lifetime to steep their anger and resentment. Unfortunately, I am the target of those feelings, and although intellectually I understand, emotionally I am wounded. I would gladly trade what little celebrity we occasionally receive for my years back from time to time, some eager law student or sociology major wants to interview me to better understand wrongful conviction. I'm always tempted to share instead a favorite sign of mine that will soon hang in my home office. It reads, "Walk a mile in my flip-flops." I do know in my heart of hearts that I have sisterhood among the women I know best, and we're growing in numbers, and we just need to keep the connection, keep it going, keep it growing, and just be there anytime, day or night. Thank you for hearing my voice.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jane Dorotik. I'm an exoneree. I spent 20 years behind bars, and thanks to the amazing work of Loyola Law School Project for the Innocent, I'm now an exoneree. My whole life and my family's life was blown apart by a hurricane of events that I still struggle to put into some kind of perspective. On a Sunday afternoon, my husband went out jogging and was brutally murdered by an unknown assailant. 4 days later, I was accused, arrested, and eventually convicted of killing my own husband, the man I loved and lived with for 30 years, the father of our children. I spent my years behind bars, working first to learn about the law to gain my just freedom. I became a pretty good jailhouse lawyer, but before that I knew nothing about the law, and I'm now embarrassed to say what little I did know or little thought I gave to the criminal justice system, the prison system. I thought, well, these are people who have violated society's norms, and perhaps behind bars is where they need to be. How very blind I was. I began advocating for change inside the prison system, change within prison conditions, and then change in the criminal justice system also. I work now with California Coalition of Women Prisoners, and I've actually worked with them for about 15 years. I started my association with them early in my incarceration days. I also work with CURB, Californians United for a Responsible Budget, with the Drop LWOP movement, with the DA Accountability Coalition, which is a Los Angeles specific organization to hold district attorneys accountable. And I work with the Innocence Network Research Committee. And my newest organization, the Los Angeles Innocence Project, is now the 4th Innocence Project in California, which is great. And it's really been formed in a partnership, a unique partnership with Cal State LA and the Forensic Science Training Center that they have there. So my community of support began more than 15 years ago in working with the California Coalition of Women Prisoners and with Justice Now, both prison abolitionist advocacy groups. And it has just continued since my release a little over 2 years ago. The subject of wrongful conviction is gaining in support, with more documentary films now devoted to the subject. But when you look at the numbers, they're absolutely horrifying. Prosecutors who withhold evidence, tamper with lab results, testify falsely, they're almost never held accountable. And that's a sad comment on our society. The community that supported me, first in gaining my freedom, the attorneys with the Loyola Project for the Innocent, most of whom are now affiliated with the new Los Angeles Innocence Project that I just mentioned. The attorneys that helped me in gaining my freedom in my transition, my reentry into society, I now have the ability to work alongside them. It keeps me whole. It keeps me working toward the broader goal of doing away with mass incarceration. It keeps me humble and grateful for all that was given to me, for all that was taken away from me, and also for all that I have learned and now can utilize for the benefit of society. So thank you all for hearing my story.
Hello, my name is Sunny Jacobs, and I was wrongly convicted and sentenced to death. I spent 5 years in complete isolation with a death sentence until my sentence was changed from death to life, and then I spent another 12 years in the prison population. until finally my sentence was overturned and my conviction, and I was released. Now, when this happened to me, there was no Innocence Project to help me, and there wasn't even such a word as exoneree. And so people didn't really understand what had happened to me. They thought, you must have done something, or the police wouldn't have done that to you. Now we know so much more, and we have had so much success in getting wrongful convictions overturned that it happens almost every week, so people are aware of the problem. But when I was released, there were very few other people who had been wrongly convicted who were free. And I felt very alone and very isolated. I had no sense of community at all. I didn't have any. In prison, at least, there was a sense of community among the women. And I missed that very much. And I kept looking for it. But I didn't have anything in common, really, with anybody else. I was 27 years old when I went in. I was 45 years old when I came out. I couldn't get hired because nobody's hiring 45-year-old women, and especially who just got out of prison, even if you were innocent. So I really felt like an alien in the world until about 6 years after I was released. They had the first gathering of wrongly convicted people in Northwestern University. And that was a life-changing experience for me, because for the first time, I was with other people who had gone through the same thing that I had, who had been wrongly convicted, and now spent years in prison, decades sometimes, and were finally free. And I couldn't believe it. We finally, I had community. And so I determined then that I was going to try to continue that community, and I stayed in touch with a number of the people. They were all men at the time. I was the only woman. And then eventually I met my present husband, who also was wrongly convicted and sentenced to death, but in Ireland. And together we started the Sunny Center Foundation to help other wrongly convicted people when they're released, to find community and to help them to try to heal. We do that remotely. We do that by going to conferences and meeting people in person. And we also started the Sunny Living Center in Tampa, Florida, so that we could provide housing, which is one of the biggest problems when you're released from prison, whether you were innocent or not. And so I'm very glad to say that now we do have community. The Innocence Projects have provided us a way to gather every year at the conferences, and they have facilitated our continuing that sense of community through weekly video meetings. So we're very grateful for that. We hope that everyone listening will try to help the wrongly convicted people in your area, in your state, in your country, and perhaps become like a big brother or a big sister or a mentor, so that we can feel that we belong to the community we live in and not feel like outsiders, because so much was taken away from us and we suffered so many losses. It's nice finally to feel like we've come home. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Heidi Goodwin, and I've been harmed by a wrongful conviction. Today, I want to talk to you about some of the communities in my life that have had the greatest impact on me. The first community that I want to talk about is probably a community that isn't traditional. In 2006, I found myself wrongfully convicted and incarcerated in the state of Washington. I didn't know how I was going to survive in prison, but I knew that I had a sense of trusting the women. My mom said, "How are you going to do this? How are you going to get through this time?" And at the end of the day, I said, "Mom, they're women, they're mothers, they're daughters, they're sisters. I hope that I can find common ground and community among them, even though I don't belong here." And that is exactly what happened. 14 women in particular kind of took me under their wings, and we created a community, a thriving community within the prison walls. We supported each other, we encouraged each other, we helped each other raise our children, we battled cancer together, we did almost everything together. And it was the first time in my life at the age of 27 that I truly understood the need for community. We created an organization inside the prison called the Women's Village. We harnessed our own unique strengths and resources to provide tools to each other and other women who didn't have those same skills and supports, to learn them and take them on and become a sustainable community and lessen the violence that occurred within the prison. This community taught me that I was a leader within it, and that there was so much more to my wrongful conviction than the harm that it was causing. Fast forward to 2014, I was released after 8.5 years, and I've now been home almost the amount of time that I was inside. So I've been home almost 8 years. I was lost in the community once I was released. Out here, I had family, I had friends, but they weren't the community that I had formed inside. They didn't quite understand the pain and the trauma that I had been through being separated from society. My first Innocence Conference in 2016, I sat with a group of women on a panel that Ziva Convisor hosted, and I didn't know what to say. I had never met any of them. This would be my first experience sitting amongst them. And I had one woman put her hand around me and tell me, "It's okay, sister, your voice matters here." And it was the first time I realized that even though I didn't quite fit fully inside and I didn't fully fit outside once I was released, I still had a community, an actual community that I belonged in. And I found my voice that day and was able to speak on that panel. Again, I realized that I have a voice that can lead. Women are in unique strengths to really harness that voice and speak up and be heard. And so I realized that the struggles that I had about being released were not new to me. They were very much similar things that not just women, but men that are freed and exonerated have as well. The issues of reentry, the issues of resources being available, of therapy needed for the trauma that we've endured. And all of these things drove me to become available to my peers in the best way, which was to become the client support coordinator for my innocence organization, the Washington Innocence Project. And in a sense, teach the organizations that released us that they needed us to help them expand into these areas of providing support for us once we were released. And I could go on and talk about those other communities, but what I really want to talk about is the community of women. We are unique. Our numbers are small. However, we find the strength amongst ourselves to encourage each other and support each other to continue to show up in these spaces where we are outnumbered by men. We really, truly are. And so at the end of the day, no matter all of these other communities that I stay involved in that bring purpose to my life and make sense of the nightmare that became my life, when I'm sitting amongst the women who have experienced the same thing that I have, who have walked through the same fire that I have, we don't even need a voice. We can sit amongst ourselves silently and know that we've been through this trauma together. We will continue with grace to support each other. I want to end my speaking here with an anonymous poem that was written by a group of students, but it resonated with me when I think about my women freed and exonerated women, my sisters. We are powerful. Our voices matter. We are a strong community, one that can make a change. We are a community of sisters that should be as one. We are the future. Our work is not done. We are stronger than our differences make us seem. We are one community, united through love, not judgment. We are capable. We are brilliant. We are unique. We speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. We stand against injustice and unite in this fight. We must join together and speak up for what is right. We are a community of empowerment, love, and light. We are one. Thank you for hearing me.
Hello, my name is Kristine Bunch, and I was wrongfully convicted and lost 17 years of my life. Today, on Wrongful Conviction Day, we are talking about community. Community is important because no one else is ever going to understand me the way my freed brothers and sisters do. We've all experienced something that leaves a mark on us for the rest of our lives. That community has supported me and helped me get through some tough times. However, there are a number of freed people that are not part of the community. They are all alone, and no one should be alone, especially under the weight of a wrongful conviction. We need to do better as a community to make sure we include these people, to reach out to them. I know that not everyone wants to talk about what's going on in their lives. Not everyone wants to share what's happening with them. But we are the people. We are the ones that get them, that understand them, that can truly relate to what they are going through. So we must make sure that they don't go through it alone. I just recently met an exoneree that has never been invited to a community event. She didn't even know that we had Zoom meetings, an email group, a national conference, little conferences all around the country that she could come and connect with other freed people. It broke my heart. I feel that each of us need to take it upon ourselves to make sure that we reach out to people within our community, that we keep expanding our community, and that we make sure that we do not leave anyone behind. Everyone that's on the National Registry of Exonerations needs to know they are part of our community. Not everyone is going to want to join. Not everyone is going to want to be a part of us. But I truly believe that there are people out there that need us. They need to be part of our community. And we need to make sure that they know they are welcome.
So what a gift it was to hear you all share about your experiences of being freed and exonerated people, and not only freed and exonerated people, but freed and exonerated women. On behalf of Healing Justice, I want to thank you for courageously sharing with us and talking about just your experience and specifically the ways that you found support in community with others throughout your wrongful conviction and beyond. As we, Healing Justice, continue to engage and learn from people who are directly impacted by wrongful convictions, I continue to learn about the complexities and really the unique experience of women specifically. I hope that for you all watching and tuning in today, that this brought a new awareness for you all about these unique experiences, and that in it you kind of hear a call to action. We've heard about how there's this sisterhood, right, in both both organized ways and organic ways that has developed among these people who have this shared experience and this shared reality. And for those of us that work in this space, providing support, providing resources and opportunities for exonerated individuals and freed persons to come together, we need to think about how we might foster that specifically for women, right? And meet their unique and specific needs. So how can we create opportunities for connection and community? How can we help promote the healing both on the individual and the communal level? And how might we support this sisterhood continuing from here? So thank you all for your time today. I'm really excited to continue this conversation with everyone who shared today and those sisters and those women who were unable to.